All high rockers now watching this saying, I don't miss them watching my wall balls. Yes, you do. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So we can now cheat rep.
So you can literally leg extend, like, again, if they were able to build that much muscle in the 40s and the 30s and the 20s and the 60s, without the knowledge, probably not even hitting their protein intake, probably having an awful split in training, they still got jacked. The realistic scenario is, as we always say, the basics. The basics work.
Right.
Welcome to the P Collective podcast with myself, Luca.
And myself, Shane.
Where we talk no BS and just fitness. Got it in one take.
It was one take. Why are we both doing that with our feet?
I always do this. It's just something naturally happens.
You always do it.
I always do it.
Every time we're here, you always do it. And now I've just started doing it.
Just watch the videos. And you guys probably noticed, I do not stop moving.
And also the video that we filmed about the 3 things that happens on your gym life. I was also saying 100%. She rubbed off on me after eating flat as well. I noticed when we were recording.
Someone commented on that video the other day, and I literally commented back 100%.
If you're listening, I'm so sorry you've done that.
Guys, what we wanted to talk about today is some new scientific studies that have come out literally in like the last year.
I can't believe it.
So
it's all been a lie.
And again, to be fair, I've said this a few times, the golden era kind of had it right.
Yeah.
Got proven wrong, and then
right
now that we've got like proper scientific studies on trained lifters, everything's kind of reversing back to basically how Arnold trained in the first place.
Yeah, but then when we do episode 672, there'll be a new study that it was all wrong, and then the old era was right, and blah blah blah.
But basically, we're talking about 3 things that pretty much every PT, every lifter, everyone believed in. And probably still believe in unless they've seen the studies.
Yeah, so I apologise to all my clients where I'm like, you need to go strict because it doesn't work. It's a lie. You can do as cheat reps as you like.
Yeah, which are now proven wrong. And let's talk about the first one of them.
Yeah, so Jeff Nippard in the last year, 2 years has blown steam into the fitness industry.
Yeah, I just read his book actually, really good.
Yeah, you did Muscle Ladder. It's meant to be good. I'm going to borrow it off you.
Mm-hmm.
He is far and beyond. If you don't know him, I'd love to meet him in person. Maybe one day, who knows? But he is like the Einstein of the fitness industry right now. With what he's doing, putting the money into research, doing it himself, getting studies referred to, making sure everything is correct with what we're learning. And he's basically just debunked everything.
Yeah.
Not everything. He just says what's more optimal and what's maybe more optimal than what we thought.
And to be fair, even himself used to say that stricter form
100%
was better.
Right, well this is topic number 1. So we've got cheat reps versus strict reps. You've all probably seen is like real. If you haven't, put something here, maybe a link or something, I don't know, we'll support him because he might need it, who knows, with our 90 subscribers.
With his few million.
I don't know. If one of you follow him, then we've made him a little bit bigger, right? So cheat reps versus strict reps. So he does the example on bicep curls.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an easy way to show cheat reps or the full range of motion. And he basically says whether you're going really heavy in cheat reps, almost that swing from the shoulder muscles, getting the bicep up, or you're strict range of motion like a preacher curl or eccentric, they have the same impact on muscle growth.
On muscle growth. So they've shown that basically, say I got 10 kgs and I do 15 reps, slow and controlled, really strict form. If I did that cheating, I wouldn't get the same. But if I got really heavy, like you said, which, hey, can I just say, remember those few episodes ago when I said cheat bicep curls are the one? See? But basically, being that if you want to cheat, go heavy, which I would personally, even with this study, I would still recommend if you're a beginner,
especially,
stay strict. The risk of injury is really, really high with cheating. And personally myself, what I tend to do is stay strict on like the first 2 sets. It'll be like the 3rd set or the 4th set, whatever my last set is.
Especially when you get fatigued,
yeah,
you can kind of kick in them cheat reps.
Yeah, and I want to do 10 reps, get to the 8th rep, and I literally cannot get that weight up properly. I'll use my hips, get it up, try and control that eccentric still, and again, get that up. And honestly,
we both said this.
Yeah. And honestly, again, like we were saying about the golden era, this is something that literally they always
did. Well, they did the whole time. It was all about mass and volume, but controlling the weight. Didn't matter how you got it up. Yeah. It's kind of been a myth. It's an unspoken law. Kind of what I learned coming into the fitness space was like the concentric movement never mattered. Doesn't matter how you get that bar up or dumbbells up, because you're going to get the squeeze at the top anyway. Either hold it isometrically in the middle or eccentrically bring it down. Doesn't matter how you get it up.
Yeah, and again, like, the easiest way to put it, right, is obviously with Olympic lifts, form is king. Obviously.
Yeah, it's A to B on the speed.
But if you actually look at the concentric of an Olympic lift, it's explosive.
Yeah.
It's all about that impact, right? And you build muscle from it. So realistically, it makes sense anyway, if you think about it in that sense.
Yeah.
Powerlifters, everything's explosive, everything's strong. Not even a second on the way up and the way down.
Yeah.
But how much muscle do they build?
That's the thing. People hate on like the powerlifters. You see when they're arched their back and it's like a 2-second bloody bench press, but they're still jacked.
Yeah,
because it's the same outcome.
You know, and that's it. And that's the best way to put it. And again, I have to, for me personally, and I think Jeff Nippard even said himself as well, would still recommend strict form more for the risk of injury.
He actually said it in the reel. He did say strict lays off the joint and tendon issues where rips can come in, micro tears and stuff like that. Just because if you're cheating, it's going to hurt a lot more, and especially if you're not stable with it, especially if you're new.
It's cheating properly as well. Again, a lot of people when they cheat bicep curls, give a quick example, they'll use their back to cheat. That's the wrong way. You will literally injure yourself. It's hinging the hip up with your hips and bring that up like this and controlling it down. There's lots of aspects like that in terms of like cheating the bench press, cheating whatever. Like you still want to cheat properly. You still try and keep form even when you're cheating. Just use what you can to get that weight up.
Use it as an accessory. We say it in CrossFit, maybe not all the time. Like I learned to butterfly before I could kick pull up. Wrong way around, don't know. I'm kind of a visual guy. I see someone do it, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Still with muscle ups and stuff, I can do 1 or 2, like strict bar muscle ups. I'm not a calisthenics guy, I get it. But then if I can do 1 or 2, I then learn the kipping, I can now kick bar muscle up, whatever. Same as rings, I'm trying to do strict so I can start being better at my kipping. Yes, I can kip because I can bar muscle up kipping, so my mechanics to that are okay and well enough for me to do the rings without getting injured. But if someone came to me, right, I want to do butterflies and bar muscle ups, cool, how many strict pull-ups can you do? None. Right, we're going to do 5 strict pull-ups before we can get you swinging. Because otherwise your mechanics just aren't there. Like the ligaments, tendons, all in your shoulders are just going to rip if they're not even used to holding your body weight.
I'd say for definite, it's the intermediate advanced technique. I wouldn't, a client first year, like I wouldn't implement it. And the trouble is I did it when I first started, I did a lot of cheat reps when I first started. But the issue is you don't understand as a beginner how to utilize muscles properly. Because cheating, you can see it from miles away when it's someone that doesn't know how to lift and cheats, because everything's wrong. It's like we were doing with the hammer curls the other day. They're not even using their biceps, they're just swinging the weight. There's still an element where you need to control that weight. You're just cheating that concentric, that's literally it. Number 2,
it's quite an interesting one.
This one's crazy, is the full range of motion.
Yeah.
Which again, we'll get into it in a second of what we would recommend. But basically what they've shown is, let's use, again, a bicep curl as a perfect example, where a full range of motion, so from the bottom all the way to the top and all the way down, versus a lengthened partial, which is the lengthened position. So not the concentric position, but from a halfway and going to here. They literally show that, at least in isolation techniques, there is no difference in muscle growth.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So we can have cheat reps.
So you could literally leg extend like this.
Yeah.
You're both the same amount of muscle as a full range of motion, which is crazy. Because for literally years we've been preaching, and I still preach it, full range of motion.
I would always preach the full ROM. I would never teach someone length and partials unless it's under fatigue, like set 4, set 5, really tired, whatever. Cool, let's get a few half reps up, still at the same rate, because you like kind of manifest your muscles. Mind to muscle connect to get used to that weight. That's what it's used for. But I wouldn't start with it.
No, and again, I would still say it's an intermediate / advanced technique. Again, I do not do this with beginners, just because I prefer them learning the movement. And most people, I'm sure you have it, the first year of training, they can't even squat. So why am I going to try and lengthen partial their squat?
Yeah, 100%.
They haven't got enough strength to do the leg extension with like 10k kilos. Why am I going to bother? I want to get them stronger in that range of motion.
All high rockers now watching this saying, I don't need lengthen partial my wall balls. Yes, you do. There's a massive thing with high rockers, you don't go blood parallel on your wall balls. Get used to it. Yes, you do.
And, you know, What I do, like you said, last set of the exercise, that's where I use lengthened partials. Really similar to the cheat techniques. Let's use the leg curl as an example. If I can't get the whole weight up on that leg curl, I'll just do some lengthened partials at the end until I literally can't even do that. I'm now past the point of failure.
Yeah, but you're still getting the same stimulus out of it.
Yeah, because
You're
again,
that tired, it's fired up, it's shattered, it's knackered, it's like screaming at you, but you're still getting some more reps out.
but you've got to think, like this. Good example of this is Dorian Yates or Mike Mentor used to do this, where you're going to failure on the concentric, but the eccentric's easier. So you could actually get a few more reps of just the
100%.
eccentric.
It's like the bicep curl 21s or like the 5x5 bench press. You do 5 bottom to mid to top, 5 full. It's exactly the same stimulus. Most of you probably do it without even realising. You're like, 21s, 5.5s, yeah.
So again, Mike Mentor 70s.
Yeah,
Dorian Yates 90s. You've got to think these are old age techniques that then got rid of because full range of motion became the thing.
Coming back in.
Now they're coming back. Now this is the important
I was
bit.
going to make a point on it. Go on.
Lengthened partials is the bit you want to do partial reps on, not the concentric part, which a lot of bodybuilders do.
Yeah.
Where they'll hold, instead of coming all the way down, they'll be here and just do this pump here, or lat pull down. They'll just be here. Does nothing.
You need the lengthen, you need the eccentric phase because that stretches your muscle fibers. That's what actually grows your muscles and why you get dense.
Yes. Obviously, the concentric builds some muscle, obviously, but there's no point of trying to keep that tension. The bicep curl just here. It's the lengthened part that creates the most muscle. So if you're going to do lengthened partials, watching this video or whoever else's video, that's the bit you want to do. Good person to watch on this. We mentioned Jeff Nippard earlier, but it's a guy called Dr. Milo Wolf, who literally did the study of lengthened partials. He's the one that actually showed that lengthened partials are better or the same. And then he actually got Jeff Nippard in to help him out on the study. He does a ton of videos on lengthened partials, so...
Good guy to watch.
Yes.
Also with that, just my lifelong history of injuries, for those of you that know, especially with rehab and trying to stop recurring injuries. A big thing is full range of motion, like leg extension. I have to squeeze at the top to make sure my knee tendons are strong enough because I'm missing my ACL. So like I have to do them. So sometimes that is the better way to be doing it. And I'd always practice and preach full ROM unless it's the last part. And like if you're a bodybuilder, if you're not, you don't really need to be doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is lengthened partials is purely for building muscle.
Yeah.
If it's probably 5-10% of a difference.
Yeah.
It's marginally different to build muscle by adding that in. That just the whole point is if you're really trying to maximize muscle growth, then lengthened partials is something you're going to probably want to incorporate as an advanced technique, something similar to a drop set or supersets and things like that.
Or the octus set that you and Neil did for shoulders, 8 exercises back to back.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend.
So I do that in the circuit, it's just a little bit different. So.
Right, what's number 3?
Number 3. I'm really bad. I had a coffee as well. I used to be so good at this. Here we go. Oh yeah.
Mm.
Slow tempo doesn't equal more growth. That's exactly how Luca wrote it to me.
Yes.
Slow tempo doesn't equal more growth. It's a nice way of putting it.
Another study which I believe it was again Milo Wolf, a guy called Dr. Pack and Jeff Nippard again.
Dr. Pack got written down as well. Yeah. And Jeff Nippard.
Which basically, again, something I always used to preach, and I still preach, but we'll get into that again in a second. You're going to see a very recurring example of why we still do it with clients. Bicep curl, I used to always preach about 4 seconds down to get maximal stretch and then squeeze. But they've now shown anywhere between 2 to 8 seconds, but on the higher end, not much of a difference as long as it's 2 seconds.
Isn't that per rep?
Per eccentric.
Yeah.
So it'll be like a 2, 1, 2, 1, which most people probably do.
Yeah, so during the phase of the reps, the whole cycle needs to be between, like including the eccentric, obviously on the way down, needs to be your 2 to 8 second count.
Yeah.
Before it used to be like the 4 to 8 people like ourselves, I've said it to clients, right, 3, 4, 5 seconds on the way down, holding it through, 3, 2, 1, come it up, you can come up for 1, because then that's the 8 second time frame. Builds more muscle, 4 ROM, it stretches the bicep longer. It's now been debunked that it doesn't actually matter as long as you're within the 2 seconds. You can literally go 1 second up, 1, 2, straight back up. You don't need to do the whole 8-second count.
Which if you're a proper lifter, you should be doing anyway.
I don't know anyone that's doing a 0.51.
Yeah. If your eccentric is really quick, I'd say under a second, where it's literally this, then yeah, it's too heavy.
Yeah, I don't think you'd get it up if it was too heavy like that. So
yeah.
it's probably too light.
And same with bench. You might you see benching where they get it off, it's straight down.
Yeah,
it's too
you
heavy.
get it back up.
So think of it in that sense. It's still got to be controlled. So it doesn't have to be slow.
There is a recurring theme here.
But the eccentric just has to be controlled. And again, what I would do with beginner clients is I would slow down that tempo.
Yeah.
I would probably go for about 3-4 seconds. Again, not just to increase muscle mass or whatever else, but it's purely being that most people can't even controlling eccentric.
Yeah.
It's when they try and squat down, they're just falling over. It's to try and get them stronger in that eccentric motion, pause and press. Again, cool, doesn't build more muscle, but it does improve your form and does improve technique, which eventually you can make it faster. Cool.
Yeah. A big point on that, especially with beginner clients or people that are learning with me, and what I learned back in the day when I was doing the whole hypertrophy resistance training-esque sort of thing, was mind to muscle techniques.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't think about that. There actually is a way of training called mind to muscle. So if I'm doing my bicep curls and I'm thinking about my biceps and nothing else but my biceps screaming at me, it will improve the blood flow going to that area. It's just a subconscious reaction your body has. You can't do that if you're not feeling, the exercise, if you're not controlling it. If you're just swinging it around, you've got no connection whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that also buys into that. You need to think about it, feel it, and control it. You'll get so much more out of every single exercise you ever do.
Yeah. And again, to reiterate the point on this exercise again, is it's an advanced technique to build muscle, right?
Yeah.
So, cool, if you want to go slower for rehab purposes, so you might have an injury, so you do actually have to control the concentric more, or you're just someone that does prefer slow tempo, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's just if you really want to enhance muscle growth, you don't want the eccentric to be longer than 8 seconds. Probably closer to that 2 to 3 max. Again, you're looking at such a small percentile of actual increased muscle mass. The one thing you definitely don't want to do, again, as we just said, is that eccentric being less than a second, where it's just literally dropping.
Unless you're doing the cheat codes.
Yeah, again, if it's the last rep of an exercise, you're benching, you get to the 8th rep, and that last rep falls down, fair enough.
Yeah.
But that first rep on the first set.
If you've got 95% of that set just being cheat and just being crap, you're going to get nothing out of it. If your 5% at the end is cheat and maybe that less than 2 seconds, but 95% has been amazing, you're on the right path. You're going to do well with it.
Yeah, especially if you're training hard and you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to get stronger, you're going to have a rep that's a grind, where it's not going to be a pretty eccentric, concentric phase, obviously.
Yeah.
But you still want an element of control, which comes into the one we were talking about before. But yeah, I think out of the last year, they're the 3 that have really opened my mind to look at. If you've never watched Pumping Iron before,
what a program.
Yeah, but hey, Arnold had it right. He literally, if you watch when he trained, it was really fast concentrics, probably a second or 2 on the eccentric.
Controlling the weight, which was his thing.
Yeah, he was all about lengthened partials. So when he was doing cable rows, he would actually hold that for longer and then pull. So that's another thing that he used to do.
That's where the whole cable lean came from.
He used to cheat a lot, especially with bicep curls. He would literally swing his hip and then bring it down.
Look at the geezer, man.
He'll cheat even benches and stuff like that. So again, it's nearly 60 years ago now.
Yeah. It was debunked way back then, and then it put the myths, and then we're back to it.
Yeah, now we've actually got people again, Jeff Napard, Milo Wolf, whoever, who are actually doing scientific tests on people. So it's actually proven that. I mean, again, it's not it's not that crazy to think about, right? If in 1970s with no science, they got that jacked by doing those techniques.
There must have been something right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If in 1940, before steroids, before we had any logic knowledge.
I think it's before 1920s. I'm going to come out with a study now. Wow, before 1920s, they actually thought carbohydrate was the muscle growth macro, not protein. Right. Yeah. And then that got debunked. I'm not saying that we're going back to that, but I'm just saying how things can change so much.
Yeah.
Because now obviously science has proven it is all protein synthesis, you know, your anabolic phase after training, it's all got debunked. So like, it is crazy that it's now gone back to it, but they were doing so much right.
Well, look at protein. It's still confusing how much protein you're supposed to have. That's why I just stick with the 1 gram per pound of body weight.
Because it's just simple, yeah. Apparently now it's up to 2.4 grams, isn't it?
Because it was 0.7 last year,
Yeah.
so it actually decreased, but I've increased it again to like 1.25 to 1.5.
Just go around it.
So just stick with 1. That's my advice to all my clients. Is I don't even bother telling them that last year was this, next year was this. Just stick with 1. And again, for me, and going through the years of training and learning about training from YouTube videos, podcasts, books, whatever else, is again, if they were able to build that much muscle in the 40s, and the 30s, and the 20s, and the 60s, without the knowledge, probably not even hitting their protein intake, probably having an awful split in training, they still got jacked. Yeah. The realistic scenario is, as we always say, the basics. The basics work. Just train your big compounds, do some isolations, focus on healthy eating, get some sleep.
It works.
I was watching the Brian Johnston documentary the other day, and the guy that wants to live forever.
Yeah.
And then I watched a video where it was someone that spends $100 a month rather than like 200,000, what he does. And her age has reversed the same amount as his. And I literally said to Connie during the documentary, and then this kind of proved the point, it's literally healthy eating.
It is the basics,
sleeping with some minimal supplements.
He spends a lot as well.
That, I promise you, is like 90%
of
longevity and fitness.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the stuff he does might increase it by a year or 2. But when you're 98
40
now,
billion.
doesn't really matter. Do you know what I mean?
If he lives to 202.
And again, personally, I don't think he looks healthy.
No, he looks
I'm not
good,
going on a tangent, but he's really pale. I think he's too lean. He's like 9% body fat. His hair doesn't look healthy.
But he'll live to 400, so
maybe.
You won't be here to tell him off.
My personal thought is he's gonna like get his brain implanted in something like an AI bot.
I've said this before. I'd love that.
But I think that's what he'll do. And then that way, when his body does die, he'll be like, no,
I
lived for 400 years.
It was because I'm spending 20 million a month.
But yeah, let's wrap that episode up.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that.
We were not debunking science-based training, by the way, because we do also go with that.
Yeah, but again, that is
it's what we've done, but also don't just fuck that off.
But again, this is now the science proving the science wrong.
Exactly. So science is still correct.
And this is actually, quickly on a tangent, something that I always say to a lot of people, and actually a big pet peeve of mine, recent history, probably like last for 50 years, is we've really taken science as gospel of this is fact, this is truth. You only have to look at just the 3 things we've mentioned, that science is literally just theory, that we do studies and we get some sort of reading out of it, and this could be correct. Yeah. And very often, with a lot of scientific literature, a few years later or decades later, it all gets proven wrong, and probably a few decades after that, it recycles and it all gets proven wrong again. Yeah. You can look at it through multiple different things. People used to believe the Earth was flat. Obviously, it's not. Right. Gravity had so many different theories that have been debunked and then rebunked again and whatever else.
Big man got hit by an apple.
Yeah, and all these things, right? And my belief is don't just say straight away this is correct unless it is purely factual. Yeah. We know for sure that protein increases muscle. We know that. We know for sure we should sleep between 7 to 9 hours a day. We know for sure whole foods and healthy foods are better for you.
We know for sure carbohydrates are the main energy source, so stop doing bad diets.
And that's it. That's actually all we actually know. Yeah. All these little techniques, all these little things are just the little icings on top, like we said about the sauna, like we've said about ice baths and all these different things.
They're all accessories.
They're accessories that, are going to excel you a little bit, but they're not needed.
It's like the 2% club, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit.
You better like, comment, subscribe for that little bit.
Thanks for watching. Again, lots of video come in. Hopefully you'll notice in this episode, the next one, that will probably have a nicer edit. So please comment if you actually preferred it. If you hated it, then tell us as well.
Tell us, man.
We'll probably be cool to get another Q&A. We haven't done one in ages.
Yeah, we do owe a Q&A actually.
And then, just keep on the lookout.
coming every Friday. We're back in the roll a bit. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Big year coming up. 1 year anniversary coming in soon. So let's get it going. Let's hit 100 subscribers. Nice and early doors.
1,000 by the end of the year.
So aim for the stars. If we hit the moon, we're all right. I'm
Cool.
so cringy.
Cheers,
Cheers, buddy.